What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of On the Block. Don Kingu, ATB News. What's up? Igor Henriquez, co-host of On the Block. Guys, let's talk about The Last Dance, episode 5 and 6. We learned a lot about Mike, some things that some people didn't know, and we saw also the Kobe and the All-Star game, one of Mike's last ones, and then Kobe's first. Igor, you want to start off and go through your thoughts through episode 5?
Well, I guess the main focus there was on Kobe Bryant and I guess his rise and what they were on what he was going to do. I mean, you saw what Michael was saying in the locker room. You saw all the behind the scene clips. That was pretty cool. You could see that it was sort of a passing of the guard type situation where Michael was the older veteran, but he wanted to take the challenge of taking Kobe on because Kobe was the rising star. So that was pretty awesome. And yeah, you got to see some behind the scenes stuff with Kobe stating, everyone always wanted to know like who would win one-on-one between him and Mike, things of that nature. And then Kobe always thought that Mike was the greatest of all time. And, and obviously we know that he mimicked a lot of what he was doing and so forth. But that was nice, especially considering the circumstances of what's been going on with the Kobe situation the last few months because of his death. It was great. It was great to see. It was great to get everything on there. And then a lot of the other stuff that was going on with the Bulls. I'm really enjoying the in-depth look at everything that was going on there. That last championship, especially, and then the last year. So what episode 5 was pretty legit. The whole thing's been really, really legit.
The music too, eh?
All in all, what was that?
The music's been good too.
The music, they had the Outcast,
Rosa Parks
song from back in the day. Rosa Parks, that was great.
Lauryn Hill and
the
Nas.
whole soundtrack's been great.
Yeah, it's been
the whole
good.
soundtrack's been great. But all in all, like I said, you can see how Michael was as a competitor. We also got to see in the next episode how things got a little bit dark for Michael at times. So, but overall, like I said, it was another solid week of episodes. I mean, I look forward to it every week. That's basically what my Monday looks like for the most part, is watching a couple episodes. And all in all, it was great to see, some clips back in the day and when Kobe was younger. And, I guess the passing of the torch.
Don, I was going to say, what do you think? Remember Kobe was talking about how Mike gave him his number, and he said, like, if you ever need anything, give me a call. I don't know if a lot of guys these days have that kind of camaraderie and, like, that kind of, like, connection that they do back then, because like the Banana Boat Crew and those guys, there's like 4 of them, they're pretty tight, but I feel like there's so much beef on the court, at least sometimes these days, there's not that kind of connection. And we don't see all the stuff with LeBron, who's the greatest player right now, going and giving guys tips and that kind of stuff. But what did you take from that and Kobe and MJ and their connection?
I thought it was unique and and kind of mysterious in a way, because looking at it from outside, and a lot of people felt like, he was like gunning for him and wanted, his, basically wanted to be him. It was always just more of like a competing with him in a sense than like more of like a big brother relationship, which is what he kind of like revealed in that episode. And just seeing that, and it was just kind of like seeing their relationship in a different light. And it was just like, it was just good to see that, and just see that they had that type of relationship, that it was deeper than everyone kind of thought, right? So just to see that, and just to see on top of that, Jordan saying, call me, anytime you need anything, any type of advice for anything, on top of the detailed answer he gave him for that, that fadeaway tip. So, and then Kobe talking about how he genuinely gets offended when, people compared him. And that was just like, like, wow, like he really viewed him as like, a big brother, rather than I'm trying to take, your spot. I'm trying to be better than you. Like, like he basically said, I'm him. Everything you see from me is him. So that was great to see that in a different type of light than what, you're accustomed to hearing and seeing.
That's the thing I was gonna say too. Like it was like a big brother, little brother relationship that the two had. And the only time you really see that now is like guys that are on the same team. We saw it last year a little bit. You know, Kawhi
Exactly.
tried to do that a little bit with Norm and OG, and we saw a little bit of that. You know, whatever we were able to see, and some guys grooming the guys that they have on their team, but on different teams and different conferences competing. Like Igor, you said, passing the torch from the top dog to the next top dog. We don't see that much. But any other
You don't see
takeaways?
it.
No, you don't. You don't. Any other takeaways then before we move on to some other topics in episode 5? Igor, anything?
No, I mean, all
really.
in all, like, no, not in terms of that. Like the Kobe stuff was, like I said, it was genuine. It was heartfelt stuff, and it was, you got to see a bit of, like I said, the passing of the torch and the new rising star. It was great how he basically wanted to take Kobe the entire game and match up with him and so forth. So it was great. It was great to see.
Yeah, I also liked how they added the locker room chatter about Kobe and what he was gonna do and whatnot and what the players were saying about him and stuff. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And just seeing Kobe,
That's what I was gonna
just
say.
seeing him, and just knowing that that was a recent type of image of him before his passing and stuff, and that felt like emotional, to see, just to hear him talk, and just be like, damn, that's Kobe, like damn.
That's what I was gonna say.
That was that, and just like, because when the episode started, like they didn't show him right away, and then when they put the interview on him, it's just like, damn, Kobe, like, shoot, like that was where it really hit me, like okay, like, shoot, he's gone. Like,
That's what I was gonna say. It was like I was gonna ask you guys. I just skipped my memory before I asked you for the takeaways. But who else got emotional watching that? Just when the camera goes on him and you hear his voice, and that was the first time it kind of clicked, because it's been a while. Like he passed away, I think, in February. Then there was a few weeks or almost a month between the burial ceremony where Vanessa and MJ gave their speeches. But that was the first time. It's been a few months, and it actually hit me, and it's like, wow, like he's gone now. Because when it first happened, there was that shock, and you're like, it's still, damn, he's gone, but you don't really feel it. But that was the first moment where you see him again, and then, like you said, Don, like it's a recent interview, and you're like, he's gone.
Well, I mean, they started off the episode with introducing to Kobe Bryant, right? And then
so it's coming, you know it's coming, like, so it's like when it pops up, it's like, it just kind of hits you,
Okay, so let's move on to the shoe deal then. So Mike was, an up-and-coming star, becoming a star at that point, and Igor, you were saying before that, Converse was like the official shoe of the league at that time, and Mike was taking some, I guess, pitches from different companies, and Adidas was one of them, Nike was one of them. He didn't want to do it. How do you guys think things would have been different? Because we know Nike has the monster it is today, and the Jordan brand, nothing comes close to it, no company at all, Adidas, Under Armour, any of these ones. What did you guys think about that deal and the process?
I think, from that, takeaway, the only ones that should really kick themselves the most is Converse, because he initially went to them first. And if they said the right thing, they would have had Jordan. And if they were willing to put Jordan as their top athlete, they would have had Jordan. And who knows? Everything would be different how we know it right now, right? And then after Converse, it's Adidas.
And Adidas had Kobe for a bit too at the beginning of his career, right?
Yeah. So it's just like they kind of they dropped the ball twice in a sense. They could have had Jordan, and literally because Jordan actually wanted to go there. He always liked Adidas, so that was they could have had Jordan forever. So it's kind of it's up and them in Converse is it's the same, but Nike, man, they got to thank Jordan.
They got lucky, but they got lucky too, right? Because I wrote down the number. It said that I think it was his agent at the time said that Nike was hoping by year 4 they were going to sell $3 million worth of shoes. Yeah. In year 1 they sold 126 million.
126.
Year 1,
man. But hey, they got to thank his mom, man. She forced him to go on the plane to talk to them. he didn't even want to.
No.
So Nike's got to thank his
Juanita.
mom.
Yeah, for
She's
sure.
the real MVP.
Yeah, she is. Igor, you want to say something?
Yeah, in terms of the shoe situation, I mean, I can see why, Converse at that time, I think because they had Larry Bird and all those guys that were big athletes there, I think they kind of felt a little bit entitled, figuring that the majority of the better players would want to be with them anyways. So they probably didn't feel that they needed to pitch Jordan all that much because, well, look, we have everybody anyways. I mean, why do we need this guy? He should be wanting to be represented by us. The Adidas thing was a little bit more up in arms, but I gotta I'll give the mom. I think Mike should be. I'm assuming he still supports his mom and and so forth. But he should have cut her a fat check for helping him out big time. A significant amount of money because you know what? And I give Nike marketing whoever came up with the idea to name the shoe the Air Jordans. Spectacular marketing. I don't know who did it. But whoever did that on the Nike marketing team and the way they marketed those shoes was absolutely spectacular. Because funny enough, I mean, it's been, who knows, 80, that was in 87, 88-ish, 89-ish, can't remember exactly. They're still even today, I was just on social media, and the latest Air Jordans just came out, and all you see on social media is people cursing Foot Locker and cursing these sneaker apps because they can't get the shoe.
Yeah.
That's all I saw on Twitter this morning. They can't get these what was it, kind of blue Air Jordan, new releases. They're cursed all over social media. They can't get the shoes. And the man's been retired for years. It's been 20 years. Yeah. So it was
31 years later, when the shoe came out, pretty much.
So you look at that, and it was sure. You got to give a little bit of luck. But you got to give a lot of credit for the right decision making, the right marketing campaign, the Be Like Mike situation. They did that. Be Like Mike was Gatorade, but they did that stuff perfectly. His marketing early on was absolutely amazing. Spike Lee commercials, everything. They did. Well, they're this is the shoe for the young kids. They did that perfect. And kudos to Nike, and then kudos to Mike because he's right. Because you know what? Had he been a guy averaging 2 points a game,
exactly. Exactly.
He would have been another guy.
I was literally about to jump in and say that because it's if he's not doing what he's doing, none of this stuff sticks. It doesn't stick.
Absolutely.
A
lot of guys sign these shoe deals early on, even these college players, and when they get to the NBA, they may not pan out, so they get some shoe money. But if Mike hadn't been playing the way he was playing, winning the chips and being the best player on the planet, it would not have worked, but it worked perfectly because he did his effort, they did theirs, everybody got paid.
Exactly.
I was gonna say though, when I think of the best basketball commercials and shoe commercials, the ones that I think of clearly, because I know you brought up, obviously he didn't average 2 points a game and he was Hall of Famer, probably the best ever, but it's something about the way that he does his commercials. Especially, remember the one that starts off, maybe it's my fault? And then they go through all the scenes with all the high school kids, and he's saying, maybe I shouldn't have done this. All of his commercials, you got to think that he's a pretty good marketer himself, too, because I can't think of anybody in the game right now that's doing anything close to what he did. And to be honest, it was him selling himself. It was him promoting himself, him giving quotes. I don't know anybody these days that does that.
It's true still. They don't do it to the quality he does, and the messages that he puts in his commercials.
And his voice too, his when he talks, people listen.
Exactly. He just commands your attention, your respect, kind of right away. So it's kind of not a lot of people have that.
Power.
It comes with what you do. Not people. It's like that aura. Is what everyone says. A lot of people have that. It's a once in a lifetime. Situation where you come across people that have that, right? So.
Because even guys today, you look at obviously LeBron, KD shoes are pretty big. Paul George, Kyrie Irving, a lot of these guys that I'm naming are polarizing figures. Not even LeBron, but Kyrie, KD. These are not players that are beloved by everybody in the league. Whereas when Jordan was around, very few people disliked him unless you were a Celtics fan, a Portland fan, a Phoenix fan, right? You had an actual rivalry with them. But these guys these days, no matter what they did, when they don't do the commercials, they don't have that kind of reach like Mike did, right?
It's the same.
100%.
It's just yeah, man. Like those that you mentioned, KD, Kyrie,
Paul George, Kawhi,
like
both those guys have their own shoe.
All those guys are big name guys, but like, I'm not. This is just like, I'm just throwing stuff out here, right? So let's not get too crazy. Right? So I'm just saying, like, LeBron is pretty much, the Jordan of like right now, and you got those KDs, those Kyries, and in Jordan's time, obviously Jordan, and you got the Hewans, the Barkleys, on all those other guys, it's the same thing. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, like you're gonna have your top dog, right? That's like your, the main guy, like, and then you're gonna have your other stars that are, second tier guys. Mm-hmm. That's how the league is, right? There's just a pecking order, right? Yeah. So that's pretty much what that is.
So even in anything,
people.
Yeah, I was gonna say in anything, whether it be selling shoes, selling clothing, selling music, people kind of buy the the brand. And that's why everybody's trying to make their own brand these days. And even if the quality of even if your shoe isn't the best shoe, your music's not the best music or whatever it is, Kardashians, for example, they could sell anything and a lot of people will buy it because they like the brand, right? And I think, like I said, with Mike, the quality of the shoe, everybody loves the shoe, but even, the shoe not only sold itself, but it also sold his marketing.
But one of the things I want to say, and again, we're going to get to this later on because I want to bring up this point, but I mean, if you look at that era, once Isaiah and once, let's say, when Magic retired,
Bird and all those guys,
unfortunately. So, like, there really wasn't, especially in that span of those 6 or 7 years where he won all those championships, there really wasn't a guy that you looked at that could really see much of Michael's pizzazz. I'm not really. There were stars, there was Barkley, there were other guys, but none of them had his personality. And none of them had his marketability, in my opinion. I can't even think of one. I can't think of one that'll pop off. I can't see anybody. Just look at Karl Malone, don't see it.
Karl Malone, no.
Slur, Barkley, you don't see it. It wasn't
Kemp and Payton, no, not really. They're probably the closest, but not really. And
that helps. That definitely helps.
But these days, who are guys competing against these days? That's what I was getting at, right?
These
really
days,
nobody.
I would say you have a lot more competition for the pot because you look at a guy like for example, like Kawhi is an amazing player, but obviously his personality doesn't make him massively marketable. Recently, it has because of his success. Mm-hmm. But back then, again, depending on what his levels were at, was Kawhi have been that marketable with his personality? I don't know. It really depends on how you look at it. This day and age, you got, with the social media, it's different. Guys get to show off their personality more. So you got,
But who's done that well? Name a few guys.
Who's done that well with their social media?
No, like the guys that have personalities that show it, and a lot of people which likable stars are there based on their personality in the league these days?
Well, when you look at it, I think now Kyrie got to do those Uncle Drew movies, showed off his personality. A lot of people don't like him, but he was still able to get that accomplished. LeBron's
but that's all gone now.
Stuff going all over the place. Well, again,
I would say that Curry.
That's what he's the only guy I was going to say. Yeah.
Embiid's massively marketable for the most part because of his personality.
But he doesn't have his own shoes.
But Embiid hasn't won anything. So,
but it's different. It's different because guys are able to do different things in this day and age.
But yeah, in terms of personality, Embiid has it. And I was going to say Steph's thing, the biggest thing Steph has is, he's a family guy. He's always around his kids. He's happy. He's won championships. He revolutionized the game. And a lot of kids, he gives people a lot of hope because he's not a big guy. He's not a strong guy. He's relatable.
He can relate to the to the average person.
He's a clean-cut guy.
Let's take a look. Even the guys that they put in Space Jam with Michael.
Larry Johnson.
Larry Johnson was Mark. I remember Grandmama. That was good. Yeah. But that was more a blip in the radar. That wasn't really anything. I saw him on Family Matters a couple times, dressed up like a granny dunking the ball. Great episodes, but it wasn't like Larry Johnson was considered an upper echelon star. He was a great player, but
All-star.
not
Yeah.
a Hall of Famer type player. So it was different types of levels back then. But I mean, we'll get to that a little bit later.
Okay, let's move on to the Olympics then. The kind of super stardom and international stardom that Mike got to is really unparalleled these days. We see it with LeBron, of course, and also Kobe Bryant, because Kobe Bryant was like a god in China and all over the world for that matter. But what did you guys see when he became the first star, especially in that scrimmage? What I wrote down too, when it was the newer guys going against the older guys, Magic and Bird and those guys, and I remember Magic had that quote, they were up, and he goes, Mike, unless you turn into Air Jordan, this game's a wrap. And then he goes, I should have never said that. It was game over.
You just kind of love to see footage like that, with all the best players going at it, and then you see that the alpha come out of that one player, right? And as a hooper, you've been in situations like that, where you're surrounded by players that have the same type of skill set as you, and you got to figure out where the pecking order is. So when you're watching these type of documentaries and you're seeing those type of footages, it kind of takes you back too. So it's always enjoyable.
That's what's funny, because all those games where it's close and you got to hit that winning shot up by one or whatever it is.
Yeah, man. Or just when you're proving your dominance in front of the best. Yeah. That's a great feeling, man. It's a good thing to go through. It's fun, and it brings you back, and it's interesting to see. As a fan, you love to see that, because you don't get to see all the best players in the same gym just going at it.
It reminded me of the All-Star game this year a little bit, when you saw guys actually playing defense and stuff.
Yeah, actually competing and playing hard and going at each other. Yeah, man. At the end of the day, that's what you want to see, right?
Igor, what about you?
You know what? That scrimmage scene is again a very rare thing that you don't really get a chance to see these days in terms of, because if you look at it, I mean, the Olympics have definitely taken a back burner to all that
FIBA games and all that.
What's been going on and all that other stuff. I mean, not the best talent shows up. That dream team was legitimately, and we can argue the whole Isaiah Thomas thing, but get that collection of stars, none of the games were close. It was interesting, taking a look at what Magic was going at, because I think that's when you kind of realized that Mike was at another level during that scrimmage. The Tony Kukoc thing was rather interesting. I found that to be, because I guess he was, the biggest hyped European, and I guess the Croatians were the biggest threat. And I guess he had been drafted by the Bulls, and Jerry Krause liked him. And as soon as Michael realized that, and Scotty, we're taking this guy down. We're not going to let this guy get his game done well. And the first game, Kukoc didn't do much. That game, he did a little bit more. They still got blown out. But Michael's innate ability to try to get under Jerry Krause's skin has actually been a real big theme of what's been going on in the series. Every episode. And knowing that, I don't think it's Tony's fault. I think Tony was a big piece to their later championships, because he was a pretty good player. But all in all, it was pretty crazy how him and Scotty took that personally. But yeah, it was great to see the scrimmages and what was going on with them doing that. Again, very rare sight. The All-Star game this year was one of the few occasions, but it would be great to get to see another one of those stacked dream team type of situations. It's very rare, because guys, take summers off. Some of them don't want to do it these days, so it's tough. But looking back, and I do think going back to the whole Isaiah Thomas thing, he should have been on.
Of course, yeah. I think everybody knows he should have been on.
I mean, we see we see it on Instagram and everything, because everyone's using that meme about the whole credentials, and I thought
you dropped.
Yes. Where the whole thing about where if the girl, you have all the credentials and the girl dates the drug dealer and then whatever. That was one of the memes that I found later on. But it's true. Isaiah, based on pure talent, should have been on the team.
Of course.
I get the whole situation that he might not have been the best fit, because a lot of guys didn't like him, and not only Michael. But I mean, all in all, he should have been on the team. But And I'm sure to this day he feels slighted that he wasn't on the team.
Of course, even
But
just for the
overall,
memories.
Yeah, for sure. Watching that was just another, he just relived it again. Like, why do you think Hewan doesn't want to watch it? He's like, yo, I lived through that. You think you want me to live through it again? Like,
I think we're gonna get to it on the next when we're talking about the next episode. Like looking at those Blazer teams, looking at those next teams. I remember again when Michael was doing all that, I was reasonably I was a teenager for the most part. And I think we were all close in age. I'm a little bit older than you guys, but I didn't give any of those teams any chance against the Bulls in any of those series. Not at all. Even when New York went up to nothing, they just didn't have the teams. Like I think Patrick was a really good player, but the guys around him, I mean, like John Starks and Oakley, like they weren't guys that I thought were ever going to win the championship. I just never thought that. And I never watched those Bulls series as a teenage kid. I didn't give them any shot. Same thing with Drexler and the Trailblazers. I think his next best player was I think it was either I can't call Sabonis. No, it was
Clifford Robinson.
Clifford Robinson, and I think Sabonis might have been on one of those teams. But that's about it. Like, they didn't have the squad to compete with the Bulls. They really didn't. And I don't think it was reasonably close in a lot of those situations. So, I don't know. Well,
Terry Porter, too.
Terry Porter. But,
Terry Porter,
those Bulls teams, it's much. Like, I don't know. Like, back then, I didn't give any of those teams much of a chance in any of those series. And I got to the Knicks and like to bash Michael around, but overall, like once the Bulls stopped being scared of him.
Well, the Cavs teams were pretty legit too. Remember when he hit that shot? I didn't know that much about the Cavs back then either, but the Cavs pretty much, they were doing. I think they were up 2-1 or was it 3-2, and then the Bulls won 2 in a row. Or no, Mike hit that shot in Game 6, didn't he?
Yeah, because they were. I think it was like a best of 5 series in it back then.
Best of 5 series.
Best of 5 series, and even then, I mean, you take a look at that team, and I think Larry Nance's father was one of the major players on that team.
Mark Price
and Brad Daugherty. Now, again, if you're gonna go by today's standards, I don't think that's that great a team, but I mean, it all depends on how you look. I mean, he was being guarded by Craig Elo instead of Ron Harper for the last shot. I don't know.
And that's why Mike got offended.
Ron Harper was nice too, though. Ron Harper was nice, and even Craig Elo was nice too. That team was nice. Again, looking at those rosters, I'm like, wasn't that like I think that was like a 60-team win. That was a 60-team.
I think they did. Yeah. But that's the thing, Igor. Like you look at stats.
Team, yo.
Yeah, like you look at teams now and you look at teams then. Games were like much less lower scoring. And even you look at the Bulls team, like the first time when they won, and who was like their third, maybe not third, but like 4th and 5th best players. They were like 8-point-a-game guys.
Sure.
Right?
But that's usually how it is, though.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying, right?
Look at the Lakers. It was just Kobe and Shaq, and the next guy was
they had Devin George on the team. Right. Exactly, that's how teams are.
Look at a lot of those, like let's take those 3 teams. Like how many of let's say the Blazers, the Cavs, and then we saw what was the other one? Now I'm spacing.
Seattle.
The Cat. No, well, even the ones that we saw, and the Knicks. If you look at it, I would say that you've got on all 3 teams combined, maybe 2 Hall of Famers. 2, and that was Ewing on the Knicks and Drexler on the Blazers. That's about it. And I don't know. I look at and I get back.
I mean, did they show? What about Indiana?
They haven't shown Indiana yet, and then they got Reggie.
They haven't showed Indiana yet,
Michael again. Reggie don't get along either. Reggie absolutely hates Michael. Still don't know why. But they haven't shown Indiana yet. We're gonna find that out. But even then, like on the Indiana teams, it's Reggie, and like their next best player was what? Like Rick Fitz. Like I don't know.
Mark Jackson. Mark Jackson. Was Mark Jackson on?
Yeah, Mark Jackson.
Was Jalen Rose? How young was Jalen Rose back?
98, 99, I think, was Jalen Rose.
Yeah, but he was still nice, though. He was still nice, like.
Yeah, I don't know. I just the levels. It's a level thing. I don't.
Yeah, I know. He wasn't. I know. You're right. Everyone knew like Indiana wasn't beating them, even though they came pretty close. But
that's what I was gonna say.
They knew it.
You look at teams even now. Like look at the Cavs team when Love and Kyrie went down, right? So like they were obviously a good team then. But who ended up like leading that team? Didn't they have like Richard Jefferson and Dellavedova and like all kinds of guys that are like backups?
When those guys went down in that series, LeBron took them to 6.
Yeah.
The next best guy was Iman Shumpert in terms of the scoring.
There you
and
go.
J.R.
Right?
Smith. Like, you're not winning with that. But then again, that's different. Those Love and Kyrie were injured.
And there's a lot
That's
nowadays. Every team has 2 All-Stars too, right? And most like all the top teams have 3. It's a different time.
Which to me I think makes the levels that you. I don't think there's series where you can just sleep on teams in this day and age where each team's got some kind of like guys that are at significant levels. Like if I were to look at, let's say, the East right now and say, you know what, you got to walk out Giannis. Middleton's nice, not going to be a Hall of Fame player, but you got Giannis, who's a top 2, top 3 player. And then you look at the Raptors, got a few guys that are up there. Siakam's doing his thing, and then you got Embiid and Simmons, and then you got Jimmy Butler. The league seems to be not as top heavy as it was back then.
But but just 2 years ago, it's been top heavy for the last 8 out of the last 10 years, right?
Well, that's also because you had one team that had 4 guys, which Draymond fallen off the face of the.
But even when Miami,
planet,
was doing their thing, right?
But even with Miami, you still had like the Celtics that had 3
Okay, so
guys.
hold on. We're going to go through this real quick. We're going to wrap it up because we passed the 30-minute mark for episode 5. But just to get the real stuff here. So LeBron James, when he was with Miami, who did he beat all those times? Pretty much the Pacers. Now we're going to look at the Pacers. Hold on, we're going to look at the Pacers now. So Paul George, is Paul George to be a Hall of Famer? Probably, but like, is Paul George, was he ever a top 5 player? No, borderline top 10, right? So you have Paul George, Roy Hibbert, who was in the league for how many years? Was an All-Star for like 2 years, and then he was out of the league.
A couple of years, and he fell off. Yeah,
okay, so who else did the Pacers have then?
Okay,
David West.
Any Hall of Famers, like you said?
My thing wasn't
really. I said David West.
David West was nice too, but at the end of the day, it's that they would be considered on that Cleveland level. I'm not going to even.
But that's what I'm saying, right? Like every team has to go through.
More of those Celtics teams that were stacked for years. Like those are not easy gets to the finals.
The Bird McHale Celtics.
The Celtics had LeBron's last year in Cleveland.
Okay.
The Celtics took them out because he legitimately couldn't beat 4 guys if you got one. Like I guess it was Pierce, Garnett, Rondo, and Allen.
Yeah.
Like you didn't see those type of situations back then, except when Boston had it back then as well. Same thing with the Bad Boy Pistons and the Lakers. But I think it kind of dipped off for a good 10, 15 years there. But again, those are topics for another time.
Okay, let's go back to the documentary. Don, we'll go back to you since it's been a minute. So one of the last points.
you guys just went in, yo.
You got sidetracked as usual. It's too bad Lamar couldn't jump on Igor on that one, but you'll hear this. Anyways, so I want to talk about the last thing about this episode was when remember when the Harvey Gantt, the Democratic leader for the North Carolina in the riding, so it was a black against a white man running for the office there, and Mike refused to side with someone, and he took some slack for it, not a lot but a little bit. Do you think that he should have done something? Do you think that basketball players should voice their political opinion? Do you think it doesn't matter?
Honestly, like. It's really tough to say, like I think, with someone with like Michael Jordan's status, like, people just expect him to, to say something or do something, right? Because he's at that higher status, right? But at the end of the day, it's up to him, right? Like, it's his choice if he wants to, and we should all respect that, just as if like anyone else, were to make a contribution or donation, right? No matter their status, but I think it's tough. But in my opinion, I think it should always be up to the players, if they want to do it or not, and they shouldn't be criticized, if they don't want to do it, So, at the end of the day, they're looking after themselves, and you have to do that.
I mean, a lot of
no
money
one else will. Exactly. So that's my take to that. It's tricky. It's really tricky, especially when you're at a status as Michael Jordan, man. Like anything you do is watched.
Well, we're seeing that now with LeBron.
Exactly.
Right? Once
Right.
LeBron
So
says anything about Trump, for example, he doesn't like Trump, and then you have half of the states agreeing with him, and half the state is giving him threats or whatever they're saying, right? Like dribble basketball,
exactly.
right?
Exactly, right? So it's like it comes with the territory, right? If you're gonna say something, it's not gonna be all positive. Negative is gonna come with it. If you don't say anything, some positive is gonna come with it, and some negative is gonna come with it, right? So there's no win, there's no lose in any decision that you make, right? So that's why you gotta make a decision that's true to you. Don't make a decision that that's gonna please other people, because you're gonna be the one that has to live with it. So,
And then there was that quote too with that guy that said, I don't remember who, I think it was a journalist, but he said, he goes, Michael Jordan may be forgotten, but Muhammad Ali never will because he stood for something. Remember that?
Yeah. I remember that, but like, who's gonna forget Michael Jordan?
Nobody.
Really,
Right? Nobody's forgetting him.
Mike had that good quote, right? He says that like Republicans buy shoes too.
Exactly.
So at that point, even when during the Olympics, to go back to that, he covered up the what was it, the Reebok jacket with
the flag.
Yeah, because the flag. So Michael was very adept to watching his image and so forth. And again, someone's political beliefs, someone's to me, that's a situation where I think you got to take race out of the picture there, because it really just depends on what your beliefs are in terms of your political beliefs. Now, again, could he have endorsed Gant as for that political office? Of course, but realistically, what if he doesn't believe in the particular platform that's being put out there? You can't tie your name to things that you don't really believe in.
Exactly.
That might have been an issue there. We don't know that. But all in all, it was a tricky time back then, because, like I said, Michael wanted to watch out for his image and trying to keep a squeaky clean role model situation. And you don't know what kind of flake he would have taken from Nike, or how that would have affected how people saw him. I mean, we saw that afterwards in episode 6 with the gambling and stuff. Because I think everyone thought that Michael Jordan was perfect, and nobody's perfect. But all in all, it's one of those really tricky situations. And back then, maybe it was best just to stay out of the situation and just keep doing what you were doing. I can't blame the man for that.
That's the thing. I do think that no matter what you decide to do, it's your decision to make, and people have to respect it, because a lot of people will say, "Oh, we've been fighting a long time to have a voice to say about things." But it's the same as a vote. You have a right to vote. If you want to use it, you're free to use it. If you don't want to, you're free to do that too. And I guess you shouldn't really be judged based on whether you want to endorse someone, don't want to endorse someone, and whether that's for keeping your pockets full or not. Maybe whether just you don't want to speak it out loud because you might lose some fans. So that's kind of a tough one, like I said, and LeBron takes a lot of flack for that because he picks a side. But I got to give the guy credit for what he does pick a side at least. He's not out there, being closet, not saying anything. If you want to stand up for something, Igor, I saw you posted that thing about the guy in Georgia that was shot, which was obviously terrible. And that was, it's just someone else, raising awareness. And I got to give him and all the people that did that credit for that too, right? For using their voice for other things.
Well, it's also because, again, in the time that we live in, because we're able to get on social media and get the news the way that we do, a guy like LeBron has, not that Michael didn't have the same reach back in the day, but because there was no social media, you're able to reach a lot more people these days rather quickly. You don't have to wait for a guy to have a scrum or something to get his words, because you can get him on the internet instantaneously. So, I do give LeBron credit, and not only him, I give a lot of guys credit for, standing up for stuff like that, because that George situation was absolutely atrocious, and it should not have taken the amount of time that it did for things to get rolling. But it's also sometimes the problematic society that we live in. And to me, it's a great thing that some of these athletes speak up and get their minds out there, because, obviously they have thoughts and beliefs as well. And, if you're comfortable sharing with them, why the heck not do it? Especially when it does make a difference, because I guarantee you all that stuff that was happening on social media, I got those two guys put in jail, because if that had not happened, I guarantee you that people would have been dragging feet.
Exactly.
100%.
Yeah.
For sure. For sure.
Okay, so let's move on to episode 6. We can talk about the basketball. Mike won the rings against Portland. They talk about the Knicks series as well, which we spoke on a little bit. We can talk about the Knicks series, actually. Let's talk about 93. So they lose, they go down 0-2. Mike decides to go to Atlantic City in the casino. Igor, kick it off. Let's go.
See, and again, and I know you're probably thinking that I'm gonna, like go down, Michael and his personal life or whatever. But in the actuality is like I don't like. They may mention to it in the actual documentary that Michael's gambling, and whatever Michael's gambling, if he likes to gamble on golf or the casino or so forth, that it's changed to Michael Jordan, and it probably is. Is that someone like doing that consistently and does it show signs of it that it might be a bit of a problem? Sure, but that's also a personal situation that Mike has to deal with. Do I think that he should have gotten slapped for what he did? I personally really don't, because sometimes, especially in that situation, they had beat up pretty badly in the first two games. The Knicks, again, surprisingly, even to me back then, were up 2-0 in the series, and he needed to take his mind off of it, and he decided that he would, he wanted to go do some gambling. He didn't do anything illegal. Again, the only way that Michael Jordan should get really indignified for the gambling, in a sense, is if it caused his game on the court to be problematic, or he was betting on games. If he wasn't throwing games, he wasn't doing Pete Rose, he wasn't doing any of that, and he didn't suffer. It wasn't like Dennis, like we saw Dennis in the other episodes. He left for days on end, and he missed practices, and Lord knows what he was up to. I would love to have, by the way, a documentary on Dennis Rodman. I'd watch that just to see what he was doing back in the day. But like I have no real problem with the gambling, because it's not like he was out all night drinking and boozing it up or whatever. So it is what it is. Do I have other issues with what Michael in his personal life later that might not come out in the documentary? Sure. The adultery and things along that nature. But in that stage, again, he never got. It looks like he never did anything illegal. Again, gambling is gambling. Everyone likes to gamble here and there. I had no issue with it. Obviously, it didn't affect his game in Game 3 and going in the rest of the series. So, I got no problem with the man.
Don?
I mean, seeing that, it was just another case of, the media built you up just to bring you down. This is what that was, really. I don't think there was a problem with anything that he did. You want to clear your mind when you're going through, situations like that. Being down in the series, you don't want to do anything that's going to remind you about basketball right now. So, you want to take your mind off of things, and obviously you don't want to be in the city. So, so
him and his dad went to Atlantic City.
I don't mind it. I don't mind it at all. But at the end of the day, people are always going to find something to kind of, bring you down, and, especially when you're in a situation like he is trying to do something that, not a lot of people have done, if not ever, right? So.
But Barkley, Igor, I was going to say, Barkley was a big gambler too. We know that. Worse.
Yeah, Barkley was a big gambler, and he was also up to. I remember there was a situation on the radio one time. He was in an interview where he was in no capacity to be doing the. I'm not going to mention what was going on during the interview. But one thing I will say is that, basing it off the whole series and his reaction to the book and everything along those lines, it was a tad hypocritical, because you could see what happened with Horace and how he blamed Horace for being a quote-unquote snitch of the book. But then, and I saw an article on this recently, and I don't think a lot of people took that to light when the first episode came out and Michael started talking about what was going on in the Bulls locker room, about the players doing drugs and things along that nature. No one ever really thought, when those guys are watching this doc, their families are watching this doc. Like who played on those Bulls teams when Michael was a rookie and things along that nature. And now, their kids got to see that. And now they got to question, was Daddy a cokehead back in the day? Like, sometimes you don't think about those type of things. I think it was Craig Hodges specifically that had to, I saw an article saying he had to explain to his grandson why Jordan was saying that he was doing lines in the room. And I don't think Michael really took that in about releasing those details to do. And obviously he got mad at Horst for, well, supposedly it was Horst. We still got proof of that. But when the book came out, I thought it was a tad hypocritical for him to be mad at those reports about that Michael wasn't a quote-unquote angel based on him diming the other guys out. So I think if you're going to do that...
I hear you. But at the end of the day, who cares?
Don't do drugs.
Yeah, right. Like, facts are facts. If it's a lie, it's one thing. But it's not a lie, right?
Well, but
it's not a lie, exactly. It's a fact.
But here's the thing. What about, for example, and I'll give you the airplane situation where, like, I think it was Scott Burrow. He's playing cards with Jordan and they're drinking. And Jordan starts saying, "Hey, mom and dad, this guy's an alcoholic."
Yeah.
Like, we don't know if that was a joke. We don't know if it was legit. Like, later on, that could affect fans. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But
that seemed like a joke.
You can easily say, "Yeah, that's a joke. That we're just joking." And you can tell it was kind of like a joke because they were laughing and stuff.
Because
what I'm saying, it can also pass as not as a joke because he kind of seemed like he was this too. But you can easily, I know I could play that off. I know I could get away with that. I could be like, "Nah, we're joking. We're good. I'm not on."
Exactly.
But here's the thing, that's why I think Mike, when he first revealed what was going on in the locker room, I think he broke that code in the first episode, and we hadn't really talked about it. But should you reveal what's going on in the locker room, or is that a player's only situation, right? Like, do you break the code or not? I don't know. It's tough.
But I think the cocaine thing, like, people knew about that.
And they knew everybody was doing it too. Like, that's what happened in the 6th season.
Yeah, they knew about that. Like, him saying that, it wasn't maybe it wasn't news to people in this generation, but when it was going on and people knew about that. I'm sure everyone around the league that follows the league in more detail than that we do know about that. But I don't think that's a hidden story.
That's saying right now. Right? Hold on, that's we all did our time every once in a while. We've been to a club downtown, right? And we know we're not going to name any players, but we've seen some players that we know were either maybe not married, but had girlfriends, whatever it was, with different women in the club. I've seen it with my own eyes. I'm pretty sure you guys seen it too. It doesn't mean it's not happening. It doesn't mean that it's untrue. It's the same thing when you see somebody who's like, "Oh, everybody's in here drinking beers and doing drugs." Like, I don't know. Okay, some people are, some people aren't. But the fact is, a lot of people are.
Well, double P. But anyways, that's fair. But you also have to think that, guys that follow ball will definitely know. Like, back in the day, the era was what it was. But because the documentary is so en masse with the general public, I don't know. Even guys that, let's say, what do you say to your, let's say, those retired Bulls players? You're still, maybe some of them are still working, doing jobs or whatever. What are you gonna tell your boss that back in the day when you were in your 30s that you were doing lines?
I'm not doing it now. Yeah, I did it then. People make mistakes, man. At the end of the day, that's what it is. I mean, if they're gonna judge you on what you did 30 years ago, then there's something wrong with him.
Exactly.
So if you're not doing that right now, you're not doing that right now. So I don't think that's on Jordan. At the end of the day, everyone you make your decision and you have to
the only thing I can think of is, remember D'Angelo Russell had that thing with was it Nick Young, right? With
Nick Young,
with Iggy Azalea. That was a direct drop, right? He's like, "Yo, your girl's cheating on you, or you're cheating on your girl," and that was this guy's doing it, as opposed to this is going on in the room. Blah. It leaves things open to interpretation. Regardless, let's move on. So they were down 0-2 to the Knicks, where we were talking about before the Atlantic City. Mike needed to get his mind off things. Went to their gamble with his dad. They ended up winning in 6 games. They go on to play Phoenix in the finals. Charles Barkley, one of the greatest players of all time. So Igor, we have your guy right here. You said that he had some weak competition. He's going up against, and I think they went down in that series, right?
Well, I mean, the best.
Phoenix went down. And then Phoenix, kind of made it interesting, but then
they tied it up at one
they
point,
ended up
right?
winning in 6. No, they won it. They won in 6.
Okay, but I'll throw it up to both of you guys. And again, Phoenix had a great season that year. A lot of W's.
Barkley was MVP.
Barkley was MVP. And Jordan was mad that Barkley was MVP. Now, the second and third best players on those Phoenix teams were Kevin Johnson, and Dan Marley. That to me, back then.
Kevin Johnson was one of the best point guards in the league at that time.
Again, Dan Marley was covering Michael, and he was supposed to be one of the better defensive players. And Jerry Krause looked him, and then Michael made him look foolish. Again, Barkley.
But who stopped Mike? Who stopped Michael Jordan in their career? Nobody.
No one.
Nobody.
It wasn't even stopping Michael. It was the fact that I think those Bulls teams that won all those championships were just above and beyond everybody else. Like, the competition wasn't really that. The only one that I would have said that was probably the most difficult one were, I guess, the Stockton Malone one. Again, with Jeff Hornacek as their third best player, or Byron Russell. Okay, maybe. But and then Magic,
those were the best teams. Like the hard, I feel, because man, like those games were close.
Yeah, and then you look at what was then the Magic Lakers still had James Worthy, but Kareem had retired.
But that was their
Magic
first one.
That was their first.
That was their first
one.
But then you got to think. I don't remember which team it was, but whoever went in the West Final. So when Mike retired for, I think it was 2 years. One of the best players of all time, Hakeem Olajuwon, won a championship. And he won it with Kenny the Jet. They were a legit team. Now, Mike never played them in the finals, but someone beat them in the West to get out of the West. So these are you keep beating teams down, but they beat great teams.
I'm just saying.
You're making my point
if Jordan, I don't know, if Jordan never retired, you guys think he would beat that Houston team?
I mean, it looks.
I don't know, man. Like, cause that Houston team always beat the Bulls in the season, and even Jordan was just like, I do not want to see those guys.
So did the Jazz, and then they ended up.
They had no answer for Hakeem though. Who was going to stop Hakeem?
That's true.
Nobody could stop Hakeem.
No one can stop him, and that's what you need. The Bulls have someone like Jordan. No one can stop Jordan. Houston had Hakeem. No one can stop him.
And even the Spurs.
That's why it made it difficult. That's why it made it difficult for them.
But I mean, Jay just said it. No one can stop Jordan. No one can stop Hakeem. But then when you look at the supporting cast, I mean, Jay just said that Hakeem's second best player was Kenny the Jet.
I don't remember.
I love Kenny. He's a great analyst. But
I don't know.
I don't remember. I can't pull up the roster right now, but he wasn't the second best player.
Was Robert Horry on those teams?
He was on those teams. He was on one of them because he has a ring from those teams.
Man. They had Sam Cassell. He was nice. He was the rookie of the year, wasn't he? Like,
with Houston, they had Wiggins' dad. I know that. Wiggins' dad started.
Yeah.
Don's laughing. It's a fact.
No, it's just the way that you said it, maybe.
I know. I didn't really expect him. So, I mean, that Robert Horry. Also, I'm missing some players, man. Like,
but again, and here's the other thing. So, we had Dennis Rodman in that quote this week, which I believe is just complete nonsense. But anyways, he said that.
Oh, we lost them. Surprising. Igor ran out of fuel for the show. But anyways, I was going to say, so Hakeem Olajuwon ended up being the Spurs teams who had David Robinson, another one of the best centers ever. And I remember I watched that clip once, and David Robinson won Defensive Player of the Year. Hakeem won against him in the West Final, and he just embarrassed him the whole time. So Igor keeps talking about all these guys. We lost Igor.
What happened?
I don't know. We lost Igor.
Uh-huh.
Oh,
you're back.
And we're back.
Okay, so you were about to give us some quote from Rodman.
Oh, yes, the Rodman situation. So Rodman claims that Pippen would have been, or was, the second best player back then, even if, let's say, LeBron was playing in the league.
He's crazy.
Which means that's pretty nuts, because, again, Scottie ended up being a really high-end player in that. Was he better than Barkley? Was he better than Karl Malone? I would probably tell you no. And there was probably maybe another 2 or 3 that were higher than Scottie. So my point is that the supporting casts were like, and because you mentioned Hakeem, the supporting casts were never there. Those Bulls teams were.
Well, they had Clyde. They had Clyde Drexler for
That's
the second
right.
one.
They did. Clyde won a ring there.
But,
Yeah.
Okay, but
they had Clyde there.
But how
He
was
was
Clyde
nice.
back then?
Towards the end.
Won the second ring.
He was towards the end, but he was still like averaging 20. Like still like.
Probably
like I
like
said,
Garnett
giving
with
you
Boston,
buckets.
right?
What was that?
I'm saying he was probably like Garnett when he was with Boston. His best years were behind him, but he was still in like he was on the way down, but still a good player.
He can still get it done.
Exactly.
You know? So
My thing was that going into those final series, or even like as soon as that Bulls team got it together and they got the pieces, especially when Grant left, they brought in Rodman. I just didn't see the competition level being like, I never once thought the Bulls aren't going to win the title this year. They were a lot like the Golden State Warriors in a lot of senses.
Yeah.
Because no one thought they were going to lose. Like once Michael got a reasonable, decent supporting cast, no one thought they were going to lose.
Okay, but you can't compare Michael Jordan's teams to the Warriors getting Kevin Durant.
Nah, you can't.
No, but that's what I'm saying. Like, so okay.
That was like a different type of like you're not gonna beat these guys.
So let's play devil's advocate. Like, did Michael, and we've had this discussion, especially me and Jade had this discussion several times. Michael Jordan's Bulls teams, whether it was the '93 team or not, did not play any team that was at the level of those Warriors. Not even close.
No.
Not even close. No. That's why when I hear this whole 6-0 thing, which is again a very
Yeah, man. Like the competition now is way better than what it was back then.
It was
like we know this. We know this.
That's
players in the league now, like average, they only last in the league like 4 years. Like, the league is getting better and better and better, man. Like that's just how it is, man. Like that's
why I personally believe you can't rate players based off of championships because of everything that's been going on in the league.
But the only thing you can rate them off. The only thing you can rate them off is what they've actually done, right? Like I said before, if Mike would have lost one of them, because we have all the teams that he went up against. We have the games, we've seen them. It's not like they're still at the end of the day the best team that came out of the West, like the Raptors last year. They went up against Golden State. Golden State had a shitload of injuries, but at the end of the day, they still won. They still could have lost.
Still, but there you go. But that's also goes to show you that.
But it's not 6 years of that championship either, right?
The Warriors, but here's the thing, which team, okay, well, and that's again, we'll play that. So which team back then could have lost a legitimate top 3 player, maybe top 5 of Durant, and still been relatively competitive in the finals?
Yeah. And then you lose Clay.
Yeah, and then you lose Clay. And then you look at when Michael retired for that 1 year, that Bulls team still went to the Eastern Conference semifinals and went to Game 7.
Yeah.
They weren't crap.
Yeah.
So they went to the second round. You made that sound like it was the finals. They went to the second round.
No, but let's be real. They got hosed in the second round of a last-ditch call, or they would have gone to the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, they would have gone to the Eastern Conference Finals without Michael.
They got hosed on a last-ditch call.
Fair enough. Now, let's compare that to the Raptors this year. Lost the third top 3 player in the league. Nobody even had them in the top 3 in the East. So you lose Kawhi. Everybody wrote them off. And who's not to say that the Raptors couldn't have made it to the finals this year? They could have went against the Bucks and gave them a series.
Okay, but the Raptors last year's win, Kawhi was a heavy part, no doubt. But he also wasn't the be-all and end-all of the team. I mean, that's also a team that consistently failed in the playoffs.
Igor, blasphemy. You're on a timeout.
I'm on a timeout.
Real talk, right?
Blasphemy, you're on a timeout. You're running out of excuses at this point, man.
No, I mean, let's be real. I mean,
you said they lost Mike, which they did, and they still made it. They would have made it to the East Final, but they didn't. So what I'm saying is the Raptors, we don't know what would have happened. It would have been tough going against Boston or going against Miami in the second round for sure. But they still could have made it to the East Finals this year without the NBA Finals MVP. Now, there's nothing else that needs to be said. Pascal's not Scottie Pippen. Kyle Lowry's not Scottie Pippen.
No. But here's the difference. The Raptors teams have already, again, you're talking about a team that, they traded away DeRozan and whatever. That was a team that, when it got swept by LeBron, was a first-place team. There was no Kawhi on that team.
Of
they
course.
finished first in the East that year.
But they did nothing in the playoffs.
That's different. I'm saying that those teams already have pedigree before Kawhi came in and Kawhi put him over the top. Those Bulls teams had no pedigree. Before Michael showed up, those guys were terrible. Nobody was watching those games. They couldn't. The Cubs, and no one was talking about the Bulls. Nobody. I mean, they would give away tickets like they were at surprise
They're
bags.
the same as Cleveland. They're the same as Cleveland, right?
Exactly. And then you see the difference. But see, the difference is in certain situations, for example, and that's why I tell you that, I don't want to get into the whole LeBron thing again, but the LeBron factor is a real thing because you see what happens when that guy leaves teams. They end up nowhere close to where they were. Where that Bulls, again, Cleveland loses LeBron, they're in the basement.
But Scottie Pippen's a Hall of
Miami
Famer.
loses LeBron, they don't make the playoffs.
They didn't make Miami didn't make the playoffs for only like one season. Like the next season they made it, I swear.
Well, again, but were they anywhere near the championship level situation? The Bulls could have been in the Eastern Finals without Michael. And that's like, let's show you, those teams are relatively already a solid squad, like the Raptors are this year. I'm not gonna. And again, I actually had this debate with somebody. Like, are the Raptors a better team without Kawhi? No. Are other guys stepping up like to different levels? Of course. You look at Freddie averaging 17 a game. He averaged 11 last year. You look at what OG's maybe points wise, still got a lot more than what he had, but he's taking levels. Ibaka, all those guys, they're all rookies. Norm is averaging like 17, 18 a game for the season. I didn't even know that.
There's also been a lot of injuries. The thing with the Raptors that I did want to say why numbers are very high, and a lot of people forget this, half the team's hurt. So you got to think, Gasol's out. He's not scoring anything. And even though he only got you like 13, 14, so you got to think he's out. Kyle Lowry missed a decent amount of games for a while. Fred was in and out of the lineup. Norm was in and out of the lineup. So they had like 2 or 3 guys that could actually score the basketball. So every time they were in, they would drop 20. Then when they had a full roster, everybody went back to their roles.
Exactly.
So
the numbers are going to be kind of screwed. They're going to be kind of like,
See, well, we saw that last year. When everybody was healthy,
different
they had
parts
a few
of the
guys.
season, guys were out, so guys had to step up. Guys had more opportunities.
Like Norm was Eastern Conference Player of the Week one week before the season finished.
Yeah.
And he's our sixth man.
I think Fred kind of dipped off a little bit because of the injuries, but he was in contention to be an all-star for a good part of the first half.
Yeah, because
of the
Kyle
year.
was out at the beginning. Remember, he was starting games, and then he would start with Kyle. Mark was out the whole season.
So the Raptors are a lot like that Bulls team where, everyone, Kawhi put him over the top, Michael put him over the top, but they were still a solid squad even without their number one options. That was my point.
Yeah.
That was my point.
I agree. That was a long point, but I agree.
It's always a little bit to me, man.
Always. I'm starting to realize that now.
Wait. What?
Poor Joey's been dealing with it for years. Though my long-winded answers that I just drone on and on. I'm aware of this, by the way. Exactly.
Okay, so they end up beating. So the quote that I wrote down was when getting back to the Phoenix series. Seemed like it's been a while. We're almost done here. Was when they went. Right, we're back to the original topic of discussion. So they have the game in Chicago, and there's possibly 2 games left to be played in Phoenix. And Mike says I'm only packing 1 suit, so we better win the first game. And they end up winning it. And that was when Charles had the interview, and he says, I have no problem losing to someone like Mike. And like, you got to think, who says that these days in the NBA? Does that, very few people. So Charles said it, and then also Magic said it a few times in the finals and also in the scrimmage. He goes, there's nothing we could do with Air Jordan, or whatever he said. A lot of these guys look at it and say, hey, we've lost out to greatness. Charles said, he goes, I gave one of the best games I've ever given in my life, and it still wasn't enough. Yeah, and the Bulls won another title.
Actually, to go back on that point, the Raptors back in the day used to say that LeBron.
DeMar, yeah, and that's why, yeah.
And that's why I thought those were weak moves back then. But yeah, looking at what you said, you're right. A lot of guys back then were like, we just can't deal with it. And I guess Charles was I mean, what can you do? And he just had that mentality. Now, I guess he hated that they were already getting the parade ready. I think it was after game 5. I think they thought it was going to be a 4-1. So Charles got mad at there, but then it was over. So it is what it is.
So they ended up winning another championship. That was that one. And then we talked about this a little bit before, Igor. Actually, you know what? I was going to say which was the better team, but we can do that maybe next episode. So getting back to the courtroom and the gambling. So there was Slim Bowler, whatever his name was, the like gambling shark that Mike had done some business with. And at first he ends up saying, you know, it was a loan. I was paying him back on a loan. And then when he's in a courtroom and he takes an oath, he says, no. He goes, I was repaying a gambling debt. Then there was that famous interview where the reporter, she ends up saying, Michael, do you have a gambling problem? And even though you have the money to cover it, she goes, you're not really betting with your money, you're gambling with your image.
Yeah, and like when you look at stuff like that, it's tough because again, that was when the first cracks started to show in Michael's quote unquote perfect image. And like I said, I think those are extremely high standards, and that no one's going to be perfect in any situation. You know, getting into business dealings again. The whole thing went with the gambling shark or whatever that guy was into. Most of these times you meet guys on the golf course or you meet them through associates, you have no idea what those guys might be doing behind closed doors, right? Like you can be a friend of somebody and maybe know them in passing or play golf with them. You have no clue how they're running their business deals, what the heck they're doing to acquire their money. You might have an inkling, but like you shouldn't be like, oh, you know, Michael played golf with this guy. Guy's a gangster. Michael's now a gangster by association or whatever. It's not really how that works. Like if I go out with you guys, and let's say you have a bad reputation from back in the day, or even you're currently doing something, that shouldn't shine light on me based off of what you guys are doing. That's not really how that works. Now, if I'm helping you do what you're doing, then we got a different story. But like playing golf or even hooping it up with somebody, that's a different situation all in all. Like, so again, like I said, I think your expectations that I was like based off some of my previous comments that I was gonna like really go after Michael in terms of the gambling. Not really. The only issues that I have based off what I've seen is the treatment of teammates hasn't been great. From the punching of Steve Kerr and Will Perdue, that slid a little bit under the table, and now it's coming out that he wouldn't let Horace Grant eat. After some bad games.
Yo, that's a Lamar Grant thing. Yo, I was saying
that's a little bit much.
Don, I was saying if we did a show here, Lamar would not give Igor food because he was blaspheming Michael Jordan. You're not allowed to eat that meal.
And I see and in this day and age, I think we criticize guys for like treatment of teammates, and I think Michael sort of gets a pass because of his hard competitive spirit. You know, like he wanted to win at all costs and all that other stuff. Like if somebody was doing that right now, like we'd have a problem with it.
But I was going to say that stuff. I just think that it's a different time now because even we see highlights all the time. There was a lot of fights. Man. There was a lot of fights in the league back then. There was a lot of fights in school. Man. You know, like I know family members that, you know, older uncles and stuff or whatever that, you know, used to get into a lot of fights. Nobody really fights these days. I think that was something that there was a lot more physical altercations back in the day now than, because now something happens, people call the cops. Before it was like you beat someone up at school, you got beat up. It's done with, you fight your battle and you move on. I think, like I said, I just think it's the times where these days
it's different.
It's very different.
It's very different. Like you can get away with a lot.
And I don't think that Mike was the only guy fighting teammates.
Away with now, so.
No, I'm not saying that Mike was the only guy doing anything. And I get that, you know, you get heated in practice. Like I've gone into like altercations playing basketball when a guy sets a bad pick or he throws his leg out on you where you can get seriously injured.
Exactly.
That's. But again, it's also because everyone held Michael to a higher standard. You don't think of Michael Jordan and you don't think of punching teammates or like not letting guys eat, things like that.
But he had that quote.
When you think of Michael Jordan.
He had that quote that it was something along the lines of, and this was at the end of episode 6. He goes, "If I could do this all again," he goes, "I don't want to be a role model." And he hasn't. That's just like he said. He goes, "You get to a level of fame, and we see this with athletes and celebrities say this every once in a while. You can't go out and do stuff with your family. You can't do a lot of things, and he didn't choose that life. That life kind of ended up choosing him."
Yeah. That's the thing, like, and you see it, the start of the episode, how, like, they kind of break it down, where, like, the only time he gets peace is when he's in his hotel room. Like, as soon as he leaves the hotel room, that's when it starts. It literally, they film him, he comes out of the elevator, and that's how it starts. And that is his whole day. And to just watch that, and just to, like, put yourself in his shoes. Like, imagine that.
Anxiety.
That's your every day. Like,
It's a tough life.
it's not even like one day you get arrested. That's your every day.
And that's before camera
like,
phones.
That's draining. Imagine that, that's just thinking about that. It makes me tired. It makes my body tired.
But see, Jay
Like,
made a
just
good
thinking about that, like.
Even Jay
it's
made
like,
a good
wow.
point just now. Jay made a good point.
Like, and then on top of that, he has to go and play. He has to go and play, and then he has to go see people after the game.
Yeah.
The bunch of media he has to answer. Like, that is taxing, man.
Oh well, I mean, Jay made a good point because like, and that was even in a time without the camera phones. If the camera phones were on back then,
oh my gosh,
bro! Imagine the casino.
and then-
Imagine Mike at the
and
casino with everybody going like this.
yeah, and
Or
then
any-
exactly.
Yeah.
Can you imagine him in this time?
Yeah,
Oh my gosh.
But like I was gonna say, not just
Oh
him
my
because
gosh.
he wasn't.
But then he would have to be way more secretive. Like, that's the thing. Like,
and that's
he
why a
would
lot
just
of guys
be
are.
way more secretive. You would probably never see him because you know how you almost can never get to LeBron. You could never get to Michael Jordan if he was like around during this era. Like, you would never be able to get to him.
But all in all, like, funny thing is, I love those scenes where he's playing with the security guards and he's gambling with those quarters. Like, even those security guards, like, who are those guys protecting in this day and age? Let's
I know, right? Like, for real.
Those guys are protecting anybody. So that just even goes to show you, like, this is like the times there was. Like, those guys are protecting anybody. Like, you look
but
at
I think those guys are like they're more like security guys you see at the arena though. Like, they're not like security.
Yeah,
Like they're like the ushers like that you see.
They're
like,
the ones that pull the walkie-talkies and say, "Bring in the real security."
Yeah. Yeah, but I was actually trying to figure out what game they were playing, like throwing the quarters, like how does that even work? Like,
So basically, I think it's you throw the quarters and it has to hit the wall, and the person that wins is the person that hits the wall. The quarter stays closest to the wall.
Yeah, just I don't know if you have to hit the wall, just the closest one to the edge.
The quarter that stays closest to the wall.
Yeah.
That's what wins. You got to hit the wall, and the quarter's got to stay closest. If you don't hit the wall, it doesn't count. And and that's the thing. So whoever got the closest, that's why when he played with that one guy with the glasses, he literally lost right off the bat because his toss was terrible, and the guy just didn't even need much to do. He just threw it plainly and he lost.
Yeah.
So it's literally whoever got closest to the wall would win, but he needs to hit the wall.
Okay.
That was the gist of it. Crazy gambling times.
It's just funny. It's just seeing that, like, his competitiveness and like literally anything, right? So it's just like, man, like,
take a break.
It's funny to see.
For some guys, it would have been like, you see all these guys lose like their money on certain deals, but Michael was never gonna be broke. Like, Michael's probably making more money now than what he did in the early.
He is. It's not even a probably thing. He is. It's easily. It's easily. So it's just like, and a lot of it is just like, when you see some of those numbers that he was like betting on, it's like, okay, you see this number, that is not that much to him. It's a lot to us because we don't have money. Sure. But like, to him, it's not like that. Like, 55K is like probably like, $500 to him. Like, it's nothing.
Yeah,
like,
and that's that situation. I don't have a big problem with it as long as, like I said, he wasn't mortgaging the house, or he wasn't like, those are small numbers to Michael. For other people, it might have been a problem, but if you got that kind of money, it's your money, you earned it, man, go do what you want to do.
Yeah, man, exactly, man. A lot of people with that kind of money, they spend things differently.
Yeah, you look at Antoine Walker, you see all these guys going bankrupt, like Allen Iverson and guys that had to have their money, like, properly managed and things like that.
I know.
It's different, because, again, those guys aren't specific brands, and they're not Jordan. So they were never going to make significant amount of money after they were done playing basketball. So
or they just didn't take the necessary steps to put themselves in the position to do that.
Exactly.
Like Jordan did that. At the end of the day, like he the way he approached the game on the court, he did the same thing off the court. Right? Those guys didn't do that. They when you don't do that, then, it's going to suffer at the end of the day. It may not suffer right away because you're getting paid while you're in the NBA.
Once
but
the
all
checks
that is
stop
going to
coming.
catch up to you afterwards. right? So like, you gotta at the end of the day, you gotta take care of yourself, right? And that's on the court and off the court. You know,
Really
when you do
quick.
half, it catches up.
Really quick, I'm gonna ask
And
you guys
again-
one. Igor, go ahead.
No, just to go back to that Phoenix thing, like I said, I just, Dan Morley and Kevin Johnson, I think I know Kevin Johnson was a good player, but I think I know him more now as the mayor.
Sacramento.
I forget which city he's in, Sacramento. To me, he was a very good player, but he wasn't an elite level player
Yeah,
back then. But Now,
It's
that's my
tough.
thing.
Like this is the
Teams
thing, Igor.
just
It's
weren't
tough for
that
me
great.
because I don't know. I didn't really watch ball, to be honest, very seriously until I'd say like '99. I remember when the Raptors first started going to the finals. I started going to some games. So like all that stuff to me is like hearsay. Like I watch it and I know, but like if I were to tell you right now, can you name like the top even 5 point guards of that year? Who you gonna rattle off?
well, I mean,
Exactly, right?
I need a list and to pull it up, but I know that Kevin Johnson was an all-star.
Kevin Johnson was actually nice. Like he was averaging 20. Like he was
the joke that
multiple
I
years.
here,
I swear, wasn't he 6 man?
No, I think he was an all-star. I don't know how many times he was an
I think he
all-star.
was an all-star at times.
Yeah.
But like he was a decent player. The joke that I always love hearing, especially in the early like 80s and so forth, and early 90s, is that I guess what's the big jab? What was that like? Some of the guys that Michael were playing against, like they weren't even full-time NBA players. They could have been somebody's mailman and stuff like that.
No,
like,
for real.
Like that. And
You
a
say
lot
the
of
same
that
thing.
is,
Too,
like,
still.
yeah, and a lot of that stuff is like some of that stuff is probably true.
But you can say the same thing about LeBron going through the East. Like he did the same thing.
It is what it is. I guess
His
Everyone
path
has
to
it.
the finals
I
was
don't know
mad
what it-
easy.
Yeah, at times it certainly was like. Again, it was easier
way.
in some situations.
There's a reason he stayed in the
At-
Eastern
at-
Conference.
At all times. It's not even at times. It's at all times.
No,
Like
but
what time was it really difficult?
I didn't think when the Celtics had all those 4 guys, that was difficult.
1 year. That's 1 year, and he lost 1 year and he beat them 1
No,
year.
that wasn't 1
What do you
year.
mean? What do you mean when the Celtics?
When the Celtics won the championship,
I'm talking about every time. I'm talking about every time LeBron won the title. It was an easy path.
Yeah, it was
I'm not talking
Pacers.
about when he lost.
It was Pacers. It was
I'm not talking about when
Raptors
he lost.
twice
I'm talking about every time when he won. It was easy for him.
in the East.
Okay.
The East was easy.
Yeah, and then you get to the finals and you flip a coin, right? Say, okay, let's give it our best shot.
Exactly. So
Well, I don't know if
it's the same. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. Like it's no different.
Last thought I wanted
You
to
just
do.
gotta get it done. At the end of the day, you
That's
just gotta
what it
get
is.
it done.
That's the thing.
Everyone's gonna get at you about the competition or whatever. Oh, he went through with this competition. No, at the end of the day, you have to get it done.
Exactly.
You get it done, and then you can say, "Well, I have the shit.
Because that's the
I
thing.
have the ring."
Igor, if he would have beaten Golden State even one of those years, I know he beat them when Draymond went down, but I think we all know if Draymond didn't get suspended, he would never have beaten those Warriors. The Warriors would have had a three-peat.
That's what I'm trying to say. That's the
Right?
thing, though. That's the thing. Like,
But things worked out for him.
That's great.
Hold on a
The
second.
3-1 is
Hold on a
great,
second.
but you.
We're not gonna hold on that
Draymond
one. That's a
never
fact.
got
Hold on a
suspended.
second.
There's no way he's winning
Hold on a
that.
second.
There's no way.
For Draymond got suspended for 1 game, and they had
Yeah.
a game 7 in
They
Golden
would have
State
lost,
to
yeah,
win that.
for sure.
So,
But I'm just saying, if Draymond doesn't get injured, that means they have 3 games to take them out instead of just 2.
Yeah.
So
Fair enough. Well, then I
That's
can-
once again, but
again,
we'll say
we
that's
can
neither
play the
here
if-
nor there. What I wanted to say is because I do want to wrap up and get to one last question. If LeBron would have beaten one of these teams with Durant, I think that he would have had a legit shot to say that he was one of the best ever because, like you said, a lot of
For
people
sure.
end up saying his whole thing was, when he said that in the barbershop episode, I think I'm the greatest player ever because I beat the Warriors, came back from 3-1. Cool story, bro. Did you do it against Durant? Durant wasn't there that year, right?
So hold on a second.
Before you say what you're gonna say, Igor, I want to take it a step further and say if he did beat that Durant team, he would be the GOAT.
That would have shut a lot of people up.
He would be the GOAT.
So you're
He
telling
would
me
be the best player. He would be the best player to play the game.
hold on.
Period.
So hold on. So let me get this straight. So the man, again, still had Kyrie, and to me, Kevin Love hasn't been that much of a significant player for quite a while. So he would have had to beat technically a 4 All-Star team. You can say what you want about Draymond, but if you look at Clay, Durant, and Curry, you can legitimately say that there might be 3 top 10, if not 15 players. So that is a heck of an expectation.
Not if you're the greatest player ever.
We know this. That's why we're saying if he were to beat them, he would be the GOAT.
Michael had the same problem and was getting swept in the first round every time.
Yeah, but man, he was like 25 years old. LeBron did the same thing.
Exactly.
So I'll put it this way. So those Bulls teams, would they have beat the Warriors teams? We already discussed. They would not have beat those Warriors teams. So if Michael couldn't do that with Scotty and the rest, those Warriors teams fully stacked, all four of them, there's no way those Bulls teams beat those guys.
But who would have? Because the rosters would have been different too.
Which Bulls team are you talking about?
Any of the Bulls teams, except might be from 93, 90. Not one of those Bulls teams, as instructed, if they are both healthy.
Wait.
I don't know about that.
Wait. So you're telling me any of the Bulls team from like the championships?
Yeah, would they have beat the Warriors team with a stack from everybody healthy? Everybody
the Rodman one, I think the Rodman one could give them some problems.
Who's stopping KD? Is it Rodman stopping KD?
I'll put Rodman on him. You're not going to be able to stop KD at the end of the day. You just have to slow him down. Slow him down. That's it.
And then what about the shooting of Curry and Clay? Like the Bulls
you just put Ron Harper. You put Ron Harper. You throw Pippen on those mans. With shooters, all you gotta do is touch them up a little bit.
They're three of the best defenders of all time, man.
They're the best defending team. They're going to make it frustrating for these guys. They're going to make it frustrating for these guys.
But you just told me
who's going to guard Jordan? Who's going to guard Jordan?
Who's going to guard? I think Durant would have guarded Jordan. That would have been a problem. I think Durant would have been a problem.
You think Durant can guard Jordan?
I don't think anyone can really guard Michael to a large degree. But if you're asking me if Durant would have given him problems with
Clay would have been better, but either way.
Okay, so we can say that Jordan and Durant will cancel each other out in terms of giving each team's problems.
And then you got Curry, and then Clay, and then you got Scotty and Dennis, and then Dennis and Draymond would have been.
Dennis would have guarded KD, and that would have been nice.
Could he do it? I don't know.
I think he would give him problems. He would give him problems.
These are fun.
He would definitely give him problems. They're pretty much the same length.
Okay, but which guy back then is comparable to Kevin Durant?
Nobody's ever been comparable to Kevin Durant.
There wasn't. So you guys just told me that Hakeem was unstoppable, and Durant in that era, being a 7 foot guy, pretty much, that can shoot the way he does, and has all the capability, skills. He would have been a huge problem back then.
He would have. That's what I'm trying to say. They wouldn't be able to stop Durant. They would have to slow him down. That's it. But Curry could get stopped, and Thompson could get stopped some games for sure. Because those guys, they're like, I'm not gonna say they're tough, but like we all seen them get stopped in games.
They need everybody.
They can get stopped.
Yeah. But I also want to the fact that the Bulls even had problems with some of those Knicks teams that were nowhere close in talent to a Warriors.
No, man, but they D'd up. Were the Pistons teams anywhere close in terms of talent? But they played dirty.
That's what I'm trying to say. And like if we're
one last thing, Don, finish up.
You got to think about this too. If they're going to be playing the Warriors in this era, they're going to be playing in this era rules. And this era rules, who is going to stop Jordan? Who?
That's fair.
Who is going to stop him? Like, that's what I'm trying to say. Like, the rules would benefit Jordan and his team.
But here's the thing. Well, the league's also got to a point where a lot of teams are playing a lot more of dominant ball from the 3-point. The Bulls had some shooters, but they don't have, like, Michael wasn't a great 3-point shooter.
But at the end of the day, we all know in the playoffs the game slows down. In the playoffs, that stuff doesn't really matter. And if you're a team like the Bulls, they will find a way to slow you down.
Yeah.
Especially how Jordan would get his calls. They would just slow the game down.
So two things I want to say before we move on. I was going to say, so Igor, it's tough to talk about when the Bulls didn't have this or didn't have that, because even I was listening to that podcast, I sent you Mike Greenberg and Zach Lowe. And what Greenberg said was, you look at Isaiah Thomas, who's one of the best point guards of all time. And when he came into the league, or maybe it was 1 year before, there was no 3-point line in the NBA. He grew up his whole life without having to shoot 3-pointers. So he ended up being still a pretty good shooter without never having to shoot with that kind of distance. So you can't compare guys back then and saying this because when Steph grew up, Steph's been shooting from 25, 30 feet because he couldn't get into the lane. If Steph was going against those Detroit Pistons teams with those Bill Laimbeer, Rodman, Sally, those guys beat him to the ground, he'd be broken in 5 pieces. So that's why it's tough to compare. It's tough to compare, man. And that's why guys give Jordan a lot of credit. I think it was Rodman because he was on the other side and he said, I got to give Mike credit. He goes, because the guy should have been broken and he came back year after year and was still dominant. They tried to injure him.
It was James Worthy. James Worthy, like, I don't know how he got out of there alive.
And that was before he started lifting weights.
Now, I will get Curry's definitely a guy that would have probably struggled more in a more physical.
What about Durant? They weigh the same thing. He would have took a beating.
Durant
would be the same thing.
He'd have to stick outside the 3-point line.
Okay, but again, I think Durant would have been a different athlete. He would have succeeded. I think Durant could, based on his size and his ability to shoot.
Because of his size.
No, but I'm saying, like, when you, all I'm gonna say is,
I laugh at the ones that say that LeBron would have had a problem back then with.
Yeah, me too.
No, he would have had a problem.
I laugh at that too, man.
I don't think anybody.
LeBron is bigger than a lot of those guys.
He's bigger than most of those guys. He would dominate them at the end of the day, right? So it's just like, for me, I'm like, the way I see it, you are a product of your environment.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right now, the environment is, you can't touch me. So I'm gonna play with that environment, right? And so back then, like, it was rough and whatever. He would just adapt to that environment. That's all.
See, that's what I'm talking about. See, Don's got the right line of thinking where he can be critical, unlike a special correspondent that we're aware of.
No, but that's what I'm saying. Like, nobody's saying LeBron wouldn't have done well. The only thing that I was going to say is, it doesn't matter how big you are unless you're Shaq. When you're going into what?
He could have found somebody. I think he could have found somebody that would have said that LeBron would have struggled back in the day.
Oh. No, but I'm just saying, like, my point was just that if you're going against a team that was like the Pistons, who were not even playing basketball, they're playing dirty, because even they said they're trying to injure guys. Doesn't matter whether you're LeBron size. If someone's trying to injure you when you're up in the air going for a shot and you're taking a shot, you're going down and you're going to get hurt. But let's move on from that.
But the thing is, LeBron, like you see, Jordan had to lift weights. So he had to get bigger. LeBron was already big. Like,
but they were still going to hit him in the middle of the year.
He was already bigger than Jordan.
And here's the correlation that I like to see from watching the series is that Michael took beatings in those Detroit series, and he's like, you know what? We got to go into the gym and we got to work harder to get by these guys. So they took it, and then you see that LeBron, when those Mavericks teams beat him and he had holes in his game, did the exact same thing. So the correlation for both guys is very similar in a lot of things. Both guys got nailed with big-time speed bumps, and they figured out, you know what, I got to change. So, I mean, LeBron will say that all the time. The way that Dwayne Casey, who was, I think, the defensive coach, changed the way that LeBron played the game, because he saw the holes in his game. Same way that Michael was like, you know what, I can't be taking these beatings. I got to get stronger. That's the only way we're going to beat these guys is to be better.
Yeah, but the reason that LeBron did not struggle because he lacked the actual skills on the court. He struggled in that series because he was scared to take shots. He didn't want to take the outside shots. What they did is they collapsed on him. He didn't want to take the shots, so you give it to Dwayne Wade every fourth quarter. That's what happened.
Okay, but here you go. But is that's a deficient? So you're saying it was hard? It was
yeah. You think he lacked skill?
Confident. No, I think
confidence?
that he lacked.
It was mental.
I personally think that his specific skills that he had at that point
didn't give him confidence.
He saw weaknesses, and that they attacked those weaknesses, and he lost confidence. Now that's because he needed. You told me that he's afraid to take specific shots. That tells me that a guy's not comfortable. It's like Giannis, for example. Giannis, you can see when he's taking those threes, he's gotten better this year. You can see that the man lacks confidence in the outside shot, so it's not dropping, and that's his weakness. It's what the Raptors used in a lot of the situation was to keep him on the outside, and that's what will cause Giannis to break down in the Raptors series. Still got his, but at the end of the day, they exposed a bit of his weaknesses, and he improved his game this year based off of those weaknesses. I think that's what guys need sometimes, is a kick in the pants to realize, you know what, I got to work on specific aspects. I'll take a guy's not a champion or anything. I'll even take Lonzo for an example. Lonzo was a horrendous shooter on the Lakers. he's been much better this year from three and so forth. So much that it stuns me that the fact Matt made so many improvements on his game, because that was the crack on him, right? That he couldn't shoot the basketball.
Yeah. Lastly, getting back to the Last Dance, I want to wrap up. Last thing you guys can kind of debate. So I remember when Mike was driving with Ahmad Rashad to the game. I think it was the finals, and he was talking about retirement a little bit. And he was saying that a lot of guys ended up retiring. He goes, a lot of guys say, I want to retire. You're going to have to drag me off the court. He goes, I want to retire a few years before, right? Now, he did come back twice, but for someone as competitive as he's been in his whole career, like Don said, whether it be on the golf course, gambling, he wanted to beat you in everything. To be at peace, I guess, knowing that he could still win more championships but retired earlier, do you guys think that maybe he should have kept playing? Even though, nobody had a stronger love for the game than he did? Or do you think that, if he thought it was good to kind of step away from the game at that point, do it?
So, I'll start off with this, and I'll try to keep this short. I think that Michael sort of realized that, and again, it's not to his slight, because it's just being realistic. I think I see a lot of these guys that like to hold on to the game or their specific sports too long, and then they become a mockery of themselves. We actually just saw our friend Nick just got a birthday shout out from Roy Jones Jr. I love Roy Jones Jr. The Roy fight like 7 or 8 years too long? Absolutely. And he ended up becoming like a novelty of himself for money, which was sad at times. I think Mike saw, especially when he came back, I think the Magic and Nick Anderson had done a number on him the first time when he came back in that season. He sort of saw that the window was starting to close a little bit when the Shaqs and a lot of these younger guys started coming up, and he sort of saw the writing on the wall a little bit. And, he's like, man, you know what, better to retire a year or two early than a year or two too late. And I don't blame the man for that. You guys think he could have won 2 more? Again, Scotty had left, because of his contract and so forth. I don't know if they would have been able to run back depending on what the situation was, because they were becoming an aging team. They were sort of like becoming what the Lakers were and what the Pistons ended up being. So I think it was a smart idea. He ended up leaving out on top. The Wizards thing, I don't really count those years because they were more, to me, more selling and publicity than anything else. But I think it was a smart idea to go up on top because, again, as you can see, the Bulls have really never been the same. When Tim Floyd took over, the team wasn't that great. As soon as Michael retired the second time around, that was basically the gist of it.
Don?
Yeah, I thought it was a good decision. I felt like it was good because he got to leave on top, and like Igor said, you kind of seen the writing on the wall. The team wasn't going to be the same. Phil wasn't coming back. Pippen, had the contract issue, and he didn't end up coming back. So it wasn't was he really gonna come back and be in the title picture? No, right? And he wanted to play with Phil, right? So that wasn't gonna happen. So it's what's the point, right? When you feel like things are not lining up the way you want it to be, you kind of see that's kind of like a sign that okay, maybe I should, and then on top of that, with all the slander that was happening, and just just being tired, just going through all that, the press and all that media stuff, it comes to a point where it's hey, I'm ready for this to be done, and yeah, I thought it was a good decision. You got to leave on top, and that was the last kind of, memory we saw, Like Igor said, I don't count the Wizard years. That's whatever. Yeah,
what would have been really cool though, and I just thought about it. So when was Mike last year? Was it 03 or something like that, right? 02, 03 were the Wizards years, or 01 to.
Yeah, he was 38, 39.
Yeah, well, would have been cool. I just thought about it right now because I was looking back where Phil was. What about if Mike would have went to the Lakers for a year and played with Kobe and Shaq? Right? Can you imagine?
That would have been,
or at least Kobe. I don't know if Shaq was there at that point, but I think Shaq was.
Because
right?
Phil won the next year.
They won 3.
Right? Yeah, Phil won 3 in a row, right? That's the thing. He won, and Pippen was in the Western Conference Finals.
Portland.
Next year.
See, I don't think the Lakers thing would have worked out too well because at that point he would have been playing second fiddle to Kobe, and I don't think that
He
would
wouldn't have done it. Yeah, yeah, he wouldn't have done it.
That would have been a detriment to Mike's career.
I was just going to say lastly before we kind of head out, I think that with Mike, why it was kind of good for him to retire, even though the Wizards years, like you said, didn't really count, was because we look at a guy like Vince Carter now, and a lot of people give him the praise. He's 42 or something like that, Vince is. But although Vince is, a Hall of Famer and an All-Star and all that, I think if Mike would have done that and played until, 40 or 42 and been a role player, it would have changed a lot of people's image about the greatest ever. And I think that's kind of the same for LeBron. I think that although LeBron wants to play with one of his kids, if LeBron's out there averaging like 10, 11 points or even like 6 points like Vince is at that point, I don't think that'll be a good look.
No, and you want to go out as the greatest of all time. You can't let your skills deteriorate the way that would do it.
Yeah.
All right, guys. I'll wrap it up. It's been a while. Good pod, and we'll get back next week then to talk about episodes 7 and 8. So see you guys next week. Hope you guys enjoyed the pod. Take care.
All right, sounds good, man. It was good. See you next week, man.